let's learn a little bit about SAP Data Hub. Hi, I'm Thain. Welcome to another SAP CodeTalk, and I'm really pleased to have my colleague Witalij Rudnicki. Witalij, thank you for joining me today to talk about SAP Data Hub.
Hey Ian, thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for joining me from probably the center of your personal data center, maybe behind you.
Yes. So I'm working from home, but today I had to call from my home data center.
Excellent. So right, we're going to hit the ground running. And obviously, I've said SAP Data Hub a number of times now, but I've got to ask you, Witalij, can you give us a sort of a definition and the elevator pitch on SAP Data Hub and what does it do?
Sure. So SAP Data Hub, as it is known right now with the version 2.7 and soon to be known as SAP Data Intelligence once release 3.0 on-premise is available, is our product to support several data functions. But before digging into the product, it is much easier to start with a little bit of explanation what has happened with enterprise data landscape during recent years, right? So one of the changes that we've seen is that because of the growth of volume of data and variety of data and velocity of data, there is no this tendency to pack all these different kind of data into one single place, and therefore most of the data is stored in the data stores that is most natural for them. But then for some of the solutions, you need to collect all this data from different places. And this is where Data Hub aims to help you as an enterprise with these tasks. So two major components of Data Hub on one hand is that you have data governance. So basically you have in one place overview of all the different data source systems that you have in your enterprise landscape. You can do data discovery. So basically there is a functionality of data profiling that helps you to understand the data where it resides. And then there is a way to build the so-called metadata catalog for all these sources. On the other hand, now, once you have all this different data, you want to get some value out of that. And for that, you do specific data modeling. And this data modeling is based on data pipelines, where you are connecting different operators which are taking all these different pieces of data that are required for your solution, and then they are processing this data, combining this data, and producing what we call this new value out of these different elements of data collected from across your data landscape. And then one more component that is extremely relevant is so-called data orchestration. So basically, as data is still being moved across your landscape using ETL tools, for example, you can now have one central view on all these jobs and orchestrate all this data processing.
So give me a few use cases with regard to SAP Data Hub.
Sure. So one of the most popular use cases in today's world is obviously related to machine learning. Because for machine learning, you start with sometimes unknown data and you need to find insight in this data that you don't know upfront. And therefore you're going through multiple iterations trying to find the right data. I heard recently very interesting statement that data scientists probably spend more time looking for data than they are looking at the data. And this is where this data discovery and data catalog from Data Hub should help you to find this data much faster. And then you need to go through several iterations with this data to build this proper insight. And this is a kind of a sandbox that Data Hub provides you to go through all these different steps of data discovery, data cleansing, data enrichment, and at the end, building data models that should serve your enterprise purposes. The other very common use case is related to IoT, because as we know, in IoT, there are quite a lot of data streams generated by devices. And these data streams can be really nicely organized into these data pipelines, especially the Data Hub supports protocols that are required for this, like, for example, MQTT or Kafka. Third but not least is quite often Data Hub is being used by business users to organize a kind of a workflow for data-related processes. So the very same way as you have data workflows for operations and transactions, with data quite often you need as well to go through several stages while producing, for example, some final business analytics output. And these steps can be now nicely organized into automated steps, not necessarily to do this manually, as still many businesses are doing.
So if a developer watching this video is really interested and they want to know where to learn about SAP Data Hub next, where would you point them to?
Sure. These developers who are primarily interested in data modeling are more than welcome to try our trial version of SAP Data Hub. It is available on SAP CAL, which is Cloud Appliance Library. And it is the full version of SAP Data Hub 2.7, but only limited with 3 Kubernetes nodes and limited to 1 month. But other than that, it is the full functionality. And to be able to start with this, we prepared a set of tutorials which are available on developers.sap.com. And these tutorials will help you to go through all the steps that are required to start this trial version, and as well to get to know the environment, and as well to do some initial exercises with this data profiling or building your first data pipelines, including Kafka and so on. So these are the really great resources to start with. Okay, so no, actually, so while I've got you here as well, is, and you mentioned the video, sorry, the tutorials, you mentioned that it's available on CAL. You're one of our CodeJam experts, and you actually go out and do the SAP Data Hub CodeJam. So is that something which is an extension of those tutorials? You know, how does it fit in? So I would say that as long as tutorials are rather bringing you across different functionality of Data Hub during CodeJam, because it is focused primarily on developers and on coding, we are going rather deep in particular area, which is using your coding skills to build some operators and to build some solutions that are not available out of the box, and where your coding skills actually will be used. So during this CodeJam, we are focusing on, first of all, building this data pipeline that are including operators, one built using JavaScript and another one built using Python. And as well, we are going a little bit more in depth into the APIs of these operators, so that you as developer understand how it works. We go a little bit more in depth into how you do tracing of the solution and some basic troubleshooting. And now, as I'm developing this or changing this current content for the CodeJam to run on the Kubernetes, as well, how to build the Docker image that supports your operator where some of the Python libraries not available out of the box in Data Hub, and therefore you need to build your own kind of like runtime environment. And for this runtime environment, you need to build the your own Docker image. So this is why I'm saying that we are going a little bit more in depth into pure technical developer related activities during the code jam.
And that code jam is actually 5 to 6 hours long, isn't it? So that's obviously where you gain your advantage by just going that a little bit deeper with that amount of time you spend with the developers.
Sure. So it is 5 to 6 hours, but we try to keep this really fun. So the exercises that we have is that one, we build the IoT scenario, and with this IoT scenario, we turn your laptops into the IoT devices, and we are collecting IoT, pseudo IoT data from all these devices and sharing across the whole group. And the second exercise is somewhat fun as well, because we are building the data pipeline, which is maybe less obvious and maybe less enterprisey, but nevertheless lots of fun, into the group chat room. And we plug some sentiment analysis, some kind of machine learning to this, just to measure the sentiment in the chat.
Excellent. So so that is on the CodeJam webpage. If you Google SAP CodeJam, you'll be able to see that. And Witalij, remind me of the exact name of the current topic that they could request if they need to.
Sure. So as I mentioned, Data Hub is a product that supports many different functions. Some are more business related, some are more developer related, and this developer related, this is the one that we call data engineering with SAP Data Hub. Data engineering is primarily focusing on data pipeline aspects. So it is not administration, it is not orchestration of data flows. It is really building, coding the solution. So therefore it is data engineering. And with the release of 3.0, once the product will be named SAP Data Intelligence, we expect as well to add additional day, or maybe as a separate date or as a separate offer, machine learning with data, with SAP Data Intelligence.
Excellent. Witalij, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you, finding a little bit more about Data Hub and talking about your code jams as well. Thanks for joining me today on CodeTalk.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, everyone.